And welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe. Here to make sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media, done right. Before we bring in the first guest, I want to apologize about Monday night. Just to give you a quick idea, I had a family member who decided to take pot shots at me on a personal level because of political differences, and I needed to handle that right away. That was some of the shots taken were totally uncalled for. But we're not going to get in it because it is a personal matter and not national security. But we're going to bring in, let's see if he can hear me now. BZ, are you there? I don't think BZ can hear me. All right, it looks like he's going to relog. I was sitting there talking to him prior to the show, and he was just sitting there singing away. All right, let's see if it worked this time. Can you hear me this time?
I got you 5 by 5, Captain Edison.
Yeah, I was sitting there the whole time. Can you hear me? I'm sending messages. Can you hear me?
Well, looks like somebody had to refresh.
Yeah,
I need a refresh anyway. I'm thinking about shaving the beard, shaving the hair, being bald and naked, just as free as a bird. No clothes. By the way, no one knows what I'm wearing under this desk, and no one cares. Pants, shorts, am I freeballing it? No one knows.
Didn't need that image, brother. Look at the new
understand why not.
Merch we got.
Hey,
nice Reaver of Common Sense steel water bottle.
Nice. Okay, I have one too. This just in.
We hope for Pepsi sponsorship.
God, if only.
Exactly. All right, let's see. Where are we going to start? We got a lot. We got a lot to go over about Florida and the bullshit that's going on in our by our elected officials. They're listed as Republicans, but they're acting like Democrats. But before I get there, I want to go a little national. Hakeem Extreme Jeffries shot his mouth off today. And here we go.
Fight it. Legislatively, we're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets.
Uh-oh. Did you see what he did there?
Okay, well, he can fight it in the streets if he wants.
But Democrats, that's violence, saying that. That's inciting violence. That's inciting an insurrection.
Roses and violins. Those are the two things that are coming for Valentine's Day anyway. Roses, violins.
Listen, do I think he's calling for violence? No. I'm just going by the rules that the Democrats set down. When you say those words, you're inciting violence. So if they're going to jump the gun and make a big issue, they need to live by their own rules.
Whatever door they open, it doesn't matter. Expect anybody and everybody to walk through. You want to go there. You want to open that door. You have opened that door. You've done that on numerous occasions. That door was open in all of 2020. Don't be surprised when other people walk through it. Maxine Waters.
Yep.
Perfect example. Barack Obama.
Nancy Pelosi.
Rahm Emanuel.
And the list goes on and on.
Sounds like that door went.
Exactly. And
be not surprised, you. When you
look at the rules for radicals, one of the things it says is you want to hold your opponents to a higher standard. But at the same time, then you have to live by those standards too.
Well, sure. I had a guy a long time ago when I first started my show back in. I met him at Freedom Fest in 2017, I think. Guy's name was Ralph Benko. Actually, he's a leftist, okay, but he was very civil. He was very courteous, nice to talk to. At Freedom Fest, which is held every year, generally in Las Vegas. It's a big shindig for libertarians. And so SHR went there, and I met this guy named Ralph Benko. And at the time, He was working, I think he was president of the Alinsky Institute. And we referenced the rules for radicals. And one of the things that he said that I took away from that interview was, and he makes an excellent point, which is, Saul Alinsky wrote all of this down. And he said Saul Alinsky was very pro Second Amendment. Well, that struck me as kind of odd. And then he said an even weirder thing. He said, BZ, because that's my name, I don't understand why it is that Republicans and conservatives and everyone else haven't used those rules, haven't used that book. The rules are there. The precepts are there. They don't state who can and cannot use them. It just sets them forth in a book. And everyone assumes that, well, you're a leftist, so it's only going to be used by leftists. Well, if you read very carefully, that door was opened, I think, back in 1947, 48.
Something like that.
When Alinsky first wrote that book. And there's nothing in that book that says, you can use them too. And there are a number of things that are in there that, okay, we piss and moan that leftists have been using them. Nothing says we can't use them either. Now, if it's not illegal, why not?
I agree 100% with you. Use it against them. Make them live by these standards too. And I have no problem with that. Let's see. I do want to touch on the aircraft that just crashed in Philadelphia. There was a tweet put out. I should have had it up, but that's how bad of a host I am. All right. This is AZ Intel, Private Emergency Service XE Medica in Mexico. We regret to inform you that the plane that crashed at this time in Philadelphia is a Learjet 55, which is a Mexican air ambulance with registration XA-UCI. We are awaiting the development of rescue operations and further information to determine the status of the crew and possible victims on the ground. So, this was an international air ambulance that crashed. I'm going to go because there's several of these mouth breathers, if I can speak, Democrats that are jumping already. Bodies aren't even cold. I hate to use that term. That was a little insensitive, I think, but I know you guys get the gist. And they're already blaming Trump for this. This is international. Trump doesn't have control over, that I know of what goes on with those planes. Yes. When they're in our airspace, they have to answer to our FAA, but we don't know what kind of maintenance was done on that plane. And from what I've seen, a lot of South American planes, maintenance regulations are not exactly followed. Not saying that is the cause of this crash, just pointing that out there. BZ?
Apparently that was used any number of times for, and I can't think of the guy's name. I think it was in sports, maybe tennis, something like that. As a transport to go, they can go to hospitals all over, whatever they think the best hospitals are, because obviously that thing is for rent or lease. And it has been used in the past to transport. There was one celebrity that was mentioned on one of the news groups recently. Now, Learjet 55 is not a small plane. And anybody that's looked at the conspiracy crap is all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'll wager you've probably seen, and a lot of the people that are listening now are going to be listening later, have probably seen the video in which that plane impacts the ground at a really steep angle. Well, a few things about that Learjet. I can remember somebody saying, oh, that's a missile. It's a missile strike into Philadelphia. Well, okay, move on. Bullshit. I also saw a video that had aircraft parts strewn around a parking lot that are the circumference of them is much larger than a missile. So that's bullshit. Move on. Now, Learjet 55 has two engines. It runs on avgas, JP4, I'd guess, which is basically essentially kerosene. So would it make that big an explosion when it struck? Yes. At that severe an engine, at that severe an angle with that great a speed, because if you look at it, somebody mistook it for a missile. So it is progressing rather rapidly. It looks like, now when you see aircraft crashes and they're immured on video, you generally don't see them approaching with that steep an angle. So I'm believing at this point that something fairly catastrophic had to have occurred with the engines or in the aircraft itself. Will we know? It's going to be a while. The NTSB, I'm not even sure that they're there yet. However, one thing I heard before coming on the show is that an oxygen tank was found some distance away. Well, that makes perfect sense, because if you're an air ambulance, you're going to need medicinal needs and you're going to need oxygen tanks. So that seems at this point to be in keeping what people are indicating right now. Everyone's kind of going 210 over 190 because this is so close to the crash in DC.
Yeah, that's
not entirely impossible, but maybe you can illuminate me about this. What is the nexus that leftists are attempting to make between Trump and this crash? Because it's like eggs and Trump. Okay, it's like 7 days. Trump isn't God, and so you can't expect egg prices to go down. So I'm curious what the leftists are saying in terms of this is Trump's fault. How?
They're not, as they normally do, they don't explain why it is. It just says you put Orange Man bad, and they're just throwing it out there, trying to damage him, it's basically just the paid mouthpieces that we normally hear running their mouths are doing it. Again, they don't give any reasoning behind it. I just find it sickening. And one of them was like, well, what about the train crash? And, where was that? Palestine. You guys blame Biden in it. We didn't blame Biden right away. We waited for some information to come out, and then, yes, we blame Biden. We blame butt plug.
The Biden involvement in East Palestine, to my way of thinking, was the response. The lagging response, the negligent response. You're going to have railroads. Some railroads are known for great maintenance of way. Some railroads are not known for great maintenance of way, and maintenance of way revolves around trackage, signaling, the railroads, the tracks themselves, the ties, the junctions, the offshoots, etc., how you maintain your property on your right of way. So, I don't remember whether that was Norfolk Southern. It might have been Norfolk Southern that was involved. It wasn't UP. I don't believe it was BNSF. But
to tell you the truth, I don't remember what.
No one had anything negative to say that I know of. I don't even know. I don't believe probably the NTSB investigation into East Palestine has even concluded at this point. Not. And they would release a volume about that, roughly that thick. So the NTSB responds to not just aircraft accidents, but anything on a federal and a national transportation level. And that would include railroads as well. It was the response to that I had issue with and umbrage. Like anybody that's a commonsensical thinking individual, the same could be said of not only East Palestine, but also Lahaina. There are still huge issues that I don't think, people have forgotten about. North Carolina, Tennessee, the victims of Hurricane Helene, that was an execrable, that was a terrible, that was an horrific, a disgusting response, if you can call it that, by FEMA. Because
I was lucky with, not to interrupt, but I was lucky with the Milton. Our governor, we still have some infrastructure to rebuild, but for the most part, we got hit pretty good in my area. You wouldn't know. that a hurricane came through. He, in our government, jumped on it fast. But I will give DeSantis credit for jumping on it fast.
But do you see what I did there? I brought it around from a plane crash to Lahaina to East Palestine, and then I brought you back to Florida.
Yep.
So Jersey Joe and Hurricane Milton, that's why I'm here tonight. I want to hear Jersey Joe, because this is a tale I do not know the details of. So Jersey Joe, dude, this is why I wanted to be here. Take it away.
Well, I wanted to touch on those things real quick, so we're going to hit this. And Governor DeSantis has given our legislative a test. Because they're saying they're so conservative, even after this boondoggle, I don't know if that's the right word, this piece of shit legislation that we passed, which we'll touch on in a second. He's now calling for open carry in Florida. And he says he wants to build a sign on his desk. They ran their mouth saying that they're so conservatives. Now, what they did is they ran a bill. They called it the Trump Act. And it's been reported that they tried to run this bill through, calling it the Trump Act. It was given to the House members with no time to read it. And said, don't worry, it's called the Trump Act. It'll stop illegal immigration. Democrats, yes, voted against it. Several Republicans voted against it. Went to the Senate and passed also. And the only reason the Democrats didn't vote for it was it revoked in-state tuition for illegal immigration. What it also did is took the power of immigration out of the hands of the governor and sent it over to the agricultural commissioner. If our law enforcement wanted to talk or deal with ICE, they would have to get his permission first, his or hers, whoever that elected official is. Now, just last election, before it, we had a Democrat agriculture commissioner. Okay. They said this was run by Trump, and he approved it. This was run by law enforcement, and they approved it. We've now had all of Florida's law enforcement come out and say, you never contacted us. Now it's someone in the White House read it and approved it. And when pushed and asked who that was, you get hung up on. Now, what's even getting worse is our elected officials, when questioned about this bill, their great response on social media is, can you guess what they're doing?
Referring it to someone else, not them?
Blocking you. Restricting your First Amendment right to air out your grievance with your government.
And you had mentioned that.
Yes. Now, for me looking into it, the Supreme Court has ruled that elected officials cannot block citizens unless it is their personal account. And then it comes to the question of what's personal, what isn't personal. If you're on your personal account and you're talking bills, what you're going to do, is that a personal account at that point? Or is that you're speaking as an elected official on your personal account? I can't think about it. I do not agree with any official. If you don't like what we're saying, don't run for office. They're acting like children. And we're finding out that some of these people, and there's now a lot of push for recall of a lot of these officials, including the leader of the House and the leader of the Senate. There's petitions going around for recall on Daniel Perez. And I'll play some of his stuff in a moment. I'm trying to find the comparison because DeSantis had a bill and they had a bill and they went with theirs. And they're trying to say that they're attacking DeSantis over, he's just trying to make Trump look bad. That's what they're saying. These are Democrats in Republican clothing. They have voted for red flag laws. They voted against pushing out illegals. A lot of them are getting money from, some of the big agriculture in this country. And that's the other thing. Why is illegal immigration status being done by agriculture. There's only one reason why agriculture get involved in it. They want the cheap labor for picking the crops.
Okay, I'm obviously missing something about this. What would be the motivation in trying to make Governor Ron DeSantis appear as though he is a rhino? And the other aspect of it is, you know me, let's name names. Let's point fingers and name names at all the Republicans that are involved in this.
Here, I will put up on the Senate. I think it's the Senate side. House Senate. Here is the yay and nays in the House Senate on the bill. So you can see it. The one that shocked me, Matt Gaetz' father voted for it. But a lot of them, as I said, were given very little time to read this bill, and it was called the Trump Act. And I'm trying to pull up the thing still. Have so many bookmarks. But this is the list of all the senators that voted yes and no. And like I said, Gaetz, that one shocked me. His father voting yes on it. I'm sorry, give me a second, easy. You want to go over that list for me? Are you able to see it?
Yeah, it looks like you're talking about the Florida Senate, but yep. I'm not sure. It indicates yeas and nays, but from this, I cannot delineate who is a Republican or a Democrat, or is this a list of all the Republicans?
I believe it's a list of the Republicans.
Because it doesn't indicate here. It just indicates yes or no, yay or nay.
Yeah.
And I don't see, now I see in the second column, the middle column, yes, Gaetz says yes under this to 2025B special session 2 days ago. No, 3 days ago at 8 o'clock, but it doesn't striate who is a conservative and who is a Republican and who is a Democrat. In the state of Florida, not being that particularly well versed in how many people you may have in a legislature.
Just to back it up a little bit, they were given 20 minutes to read through a 75-page bill.
Yeah, see, that's just, the days of that stupid shit just have to stop.
Yeah. They're using, and I hate to go this route, but they're using Democrat tactics. That's why I'm questioning their allegiance. And it sucks because we were being praised by the country for having such a conservative legislative, and now come to find out that these guys weren't exactly, that it was Ron DeSantis that's been holding things together mostly. Do you know how when you're looking for stuff, you can never find it, but when you're not looking for it, you come across it 120 times?
Well, as you're looking for something, I found a bill out of the Florida Senate, and this is flsenate.gov, flsenate.gov, and it indicates CSSB 2-B, immigration, general bill by appropriations, immigration, citing this act as the tackling and reforming unlawful migration policy. Funny how they made it the Trump Act, and they forced the acronym. Providing that the Commissioner of Agriculture, as you indicated, is the only person responsible for serving as liaison between certain entities, unspecified entities that I see, regarding federal immigration laws. Okay, so my first question is, why are you going to push this into a Commissioner of Agriculture? Shouldn't there be some kind of oversight already in some kind of a board or a committee?
We used to have like a immigration czar, from what I understand, but several years ago they kind of redid our Constitution and changed a lot of things. They put that power in the governor's hand, and now through a bill they're trying to take it out of his hand, which is unconstitutional, even though they're saying it's not. But you can't just change the Constitution by law.
Okay, well, if at first, and this, Granted, this is the first reading that I've had of this particular act, but my initial response is, okay, already you're talking about Commissioner of Agriculture being the only person responsible for being a liaison between certain entities unspecified regarding federal immigration laws. Okay, to me, this makes little to no sense because you're simply assuming that any interaction that the state of Florida is going to have with illegal invaders will be by way of agriculture only, and that makes no sense. Now, I think in California, always spell it with a K, there's 21% plus of illegal invaders that are involved in agriculture, picking fruit, being slaves, that Democrats loved from the 1800s and 1900s. I grok that concept. They like free work, and probably a good percentile of Republicans like the free work too. But specifically aiming this as what would be essentially the Commission of Agriculture czar, completely, it doesn't include all of the other areas that could and will and are affected by illegal invaders. So that's the first red flag that stands out for me. It delineates that person as the only one responsible serving for liaison. Okay, so why is that liaison so important? That's the second question that I have. Why does
you're going to be asking some questions I know I'm not going to be able to answer because there's no reason why it should go that way. There's no reason it should be going to the agriculture consumer. And I've always wondered that because if you want your gun permit, you go to the agriculture consumer to get your gun permit when we have them, which never. Why am I going to the guy about cows for my gun? Why am I going to the guy about cows and as a law enforcement to see if I can talk to ICE about illegal immigration? I'm not looking up a cow's ass, but I found. This is that was posted that showed the difference between the two bills, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's wrong with the bill.
Anyway, as you look at that, I'm going to continue reading the bill. Okay. They talk about the Commissioner of Agriculture being the only person responsible for serving as liaison between certain entities regarding federal immigration laws, creating the local law enforcement immigration grant program, whatever that is, what's its purpose, within the Office of State Immigration Enforcement. Okay, the Office of State Immigration Enforcement in Florida, wouldn't that be the appropriate entity to make sure that they're the liaison? It's just, so far at this point, this bill that I'm reading makes zero sense because now they're indicating that the local law enforcement immigration grant program with the Office of State Immigration Enforcement, who should be overseeing this, within the Division of Law Enforcement under the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, creating the Office of State Immigration Enforcement, who should be the monitors for that, within the Division of Law Enforcement under the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services for specified purposes. And the appropriation is $515 million. Okay, as far as I can see, this is a bunch of bureaucratic gobbledygook. And at the conclusion of this, the first thing I think is, okay, what the fuck are you trying to bury? Because there's something in here that required this bill for someone to profit from. And that $515 million, to whom or where is that going? Is that going into an earmarked fund? Is that going into a general fund? Who can access that fund? On which side are those people that will have the ability to access all of this information? And why do you need $500 million to do what appears to be create more bureaucracy? You always have to ask, cui bono of everything. Cui bono. You got to find that out. That none of this makes any sense, but it is going to be of great benefit to someone when you find that someone, series of someones, or entity or series of entities or organizations who benefit from this, then will you know the actual true purpose of this bill. So it names
Now, let me go over
level.
because some of the failures that it does do, which
Okay.
I brought up by this, and it might answer some of the question.
Okay.
It fails to put an enforceable duty on state and local law enforcement to fully cooperate on illegal immigration enforcement under the 287G program. This means that Florida localities will provide no meaningful assistance to federal efforts. It's unconstitutional, removes authority to enforce the law from the governor to a low-level cabinet agency. The Department of Agriculture, that does not oversee state law enforcement and whose stakeholders often oppose enforceable measurements by giving enforcement powers to agricultural arm of state government, and ensures that enforcement never actually occurs. In short, it puts the fox in charge of the hen house, because they will be able to stop any enforcement of legal immigration and allowing illegals to come in here to work on our agricultural farms.
So I know that Florida is a large agricultural state, known for oranges and any number of other things.
Strawberries.
I grok that concept. Understood. But not only cui bono, but if this, at first blush, having not read anything in depth or detail, sounds as though someone is attempting to eschew any kind of gesundheit, federal government involvement in immigration. So if I'm reading this right, this is someone's attempt to make sure that state law supersedes federal law, and the only way that anyone will have any hold or sway over what happens to illegal invaders will be under the state and not the feds, and that won't hold. You know, that's obviously the big, huge coming issue, which of necessity absolutely must sooner or later go to SCOTUS, because federal law in immigration supersedes that of state law. No one has just pushed it to the point where it becomes just super fucking clear. Don't screw with this kind of stuff. This is a federal venue. This is a state venue. States, even though the 10th, stay in your lane. Feds, stay in your lane. You're responsible for this. States, you're responsible for that. And there the twain shall meet. See, a lot of this stuff is still so up in the air, and a lot of things like this that are deemed political, SCOTUS doesn't want to have any involvement in. SCOTUS wants to hold at arm's length anything having to do with elections or fraud or vote or politics, or in this case, illegal invaders, and who has the ability. They will generally hold for the federal government, not always, but someone somewhere has to be able to sit down and say, these are your lanes, stay in them, and here's what the laws are.
You want to hear the funny thing about this whole bill?
Please.
It's passed the House. It's passed the Senate.
Okay.
They will not give it to the governor.
Okay, then it won't get signed, right?
Well, he already said he's going to veto it, and they know, even working with the Democrats, they don't have the numbers to override the veto.
Okay, so this is what, grandstanding, or is this an attempt to find out on what side of the aisle are you truly? You know,
we're going to push this bill through. We're going to call it the Trump Act. No one's going to question it because it's called the Trump Act. MAGA's stupid, and they're just going to go along with it. They're not going to read it. To the point that there's rumors that it was even said on the floor by the House leader that they're not going to read it. It says the Trump Act. They don't care. Go ahead and vote yes on it. And that's what it is. They tried jamming this through. I mean, it fails to address remittance and allows alien working illegally in Florida to continue sending money back to other countries. It fails to establish a state crime to enter the U.S. and then enter the state illegally, as called for by the governor's proposal.
Okay.
Does not require a person registering to vote to affirm under oath that he or she is a United States citizen and legal resident of Florida, as called for by the governor's proposal. Does not strengthen enforcement against gangs by expanding the definition of transnational criminal organization or increase associated penalties, as governor's proposal. Does not prepare local entities to affirmatively assist with deportation efforts by requiring state and local law enforcement agencies to ensure that at least 10% of their sworn law enforcement officers are available to perform or exercise the power, privileges, or duties of an immigration officer as called for by the governor's proposal, and fails to enhance the crime of registering to vote as an illegal alien. That's all in this bill. And they tried passing it, hiding behind Trump, using his name. And as I said, someone in the White House is who they talk to now. It went from, we talked to Trump about this, he approved it, to somebody in the White House we talked to. And that they thought the American people or the Floridians were going to be stupid and not read the bill. We did.
Okay, so again, at first blush, this seems as though it's nothing but a bill authored by leftists and Democrats to make sure that they have the clear and present ability to destroy your state.
Yes.
I'm looking over here, and I don't know who these guys are because I'm not familiar with names in Florida. General bill by appropriations, somebody named Gruters, Gruters.
A lot of these guys, I don't know their name either because I didn't get super in-depth on state level, and that's my fault for doing it.
A co-introducer is named Fine.
Yes, that's the fat fucker that's blocking everybody that disagrees with him.
Okay.
He just got his position the other day. He's in, and there's a primary coming up actually in April. His position was opened up by one of the appointments of Trump that Trump made. This guy was put in, and ends up, this guy's got a history. He was court-ordered anger management.
Okay.
And now anybody that says anything, questions him on the bill, he blocks you.
Oh, okay. Well, this is nothing more than a naked attempt to destroy your state aimed at people that are primarily idiots. Now, I don't know.
Daniel Perez is the House leader that has pushed this through. He's picked the fight with the governor. He's gone on soft media tour where all questions are pre-approved, allowed notes. I got a little video of him trying to lie about this bill.
Okay, so again, because I'm unfamiliar with Florida, can you kind of clue me in as to the orientation of the percentile of people in your assembly and or your house who are Republicans and Democrats? Who holds power?
Republicans have supermajority in both the House and the Senate. I don't have the exact numbers, but we have supermajority in both House and Senate.
All right, so that's the reversal of California. Always spell it with a K. Who has a supermajority in that state? So is this still? I'm super unclear. What was this? You could take this as an outing, just as some people out themselves or others as gay, as rocks, as party animals and party favors. Is this an attempt by someone to make sure that they out the rhinos?
I'm starting to wonder. I think they did it themselves without any help. They thought they were going to be smart and pass this through.
Okay, because all of this, again, at first blush, my first day, my first hour with looking at this, this bill seems like a puerile attempt by a 5-year-old to say, but dad said I could do it. And then mom says, well, I don't believe it. Let me go talk to your dad. And then the 5-year-old is outed and discovered within 15 seconds of making the statement. This bill makes no sense, particularly in light of the fact, as you indicate, that Republicans have a supermajority in Florida. So it's like, what was your attempt? And it also makes me wonder, okay, earmarking $515 million for some kind of bullshit. Where was it going to go? And again, cui bono, who benefits from this? You
To be
go
honest, that's
back.
the first time I heard about that $515 million thing.
And
That
yeah,
hasn't
it's
even
in the
brought
bill.
up. No, I believe it's in the bill. That hasn't even been brought up before. It's
So, that's a remarkable amount of money, especially when you're talking about a state. Florida's pretty big. Yeah, I'm sure it's got a rather substantial budget. My guess would be California's budget is going to be larger simply because of the land mass, the people, et cetera, that kind of a thing. So even in California, always spell it with a K, the people that are attempting to appropriate $500 million, this would, even by Kevin Kiley, this would have to somehow come to light. So again, I'm looking at this. Except as otherwise provided, the actual take place upon becoming a law, 128, and the House passed yeas 82, nays 30. So of the yeas that are 82, and you say Republicans have a supermajority, to me that outs a massive amount of these shit sticks as rhinos. Exactly. So then you have to go down. You have.
Well, let me back. Not all of them are rhinos, but a lot of them got caught not reading a bill and voting on it, because a lot of them admitted they didn't have time to read it. They were told it's a safe bill, it's a Trump-backed bill, don't worry about it, and they voted yes on it without reading it.
Okay, then you're assuming all these people are going to be morons, or they are in fact morons.
Yes.
If you have a bill before you and you're mandated to serve the people, and if you have something cross your desk and someone somewhere is screaming in your ear, vote on this, my instinct is fuck you. No.
Yeah.
If you're not going to give me any lengthy, reasonable time to examine a bill on its face and discover its contents, then you want me to engage in this stupid kiddie stuff? No.
Do me a favor. Hit your bell. Hit your little bell for me.
Get my bill. Okay, here it is. Got it.
Because that's an excellent point right there. They should never have voted on it. It shows their true intelligence. I mean, you make an excellent point right there. An ultimate point. That's why I want you to ring the bell, because you get one for yourself today.
Thank you. It's not a huge bell. It's just a little winky one.
It's not the size of the bell that counts.
That's true. Or the size of the little fat fingers that slam.
But what this bill also did, I've noticed on social media, it's opened that fight again from DeSantis supporters. Holy shit, is that a tongue twister actually to try to say? And Trump supporters. Because now DeSantis supporters are blaming Trump supporters for this bill. Trump supporters are backing DeSantis on this. And they're pissed off because Trump's name's used in it.
Yeah.
You got DeSantis supporters that are attacking the Trump supporters and Trump. They're blaming Trump for this.
Okay, clearly there are many machinations about this, which I obviously don't understand and won't pretend to. But there is a shit ton of underlying subtext to this, and there are various tabs here. Bill history. I'm looking at the bill history, related bills, bill text, amendments, analysis, vote history, citations, and this again is attempting to take a real bad naked advantage of idiots, which will either end up exposing the idiots or exposing the rhinos, or coming down and somebody somewhere is going to have to delineate a list of who voted for this, who voted against this, with the complete knowledge of what this bill contains, where the money was supposed to have gone, into which fund will this have gone? Again, cui bono, straighten it out, determine all of these people, and then once you have a good idea of what sifts through primary, the shit out of the Republicans, that voted for this once the nature of the bill becomes very obvious. Now, this guy named Fine that you mentioned, who had
Fine, I think it is.
blocked you on X?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all I did was pointed out that him blocking is a constitutional question, and SCOTUS has responded to politician blocking people. Didn't insult them and just saying, it is unconstitutional blocking free speech, and he immediately blocks. If you do not agree with him, he's blocking everybody. And that is disgusting that an elected official, and he's a Republican. So, and that's what I want to point out. Just because you got an R doesn't mean you get a free pass. And I think that's what they expected, that they can get away with anything. They could change the way the state is by backdoor bill and pulling Democrat. Well, I actually think these guys are Democrats in Republican clothing, rhinos, however you want to call them. But I don't think they're going to have jobs much longer, because Andy Fine actually has an election coming up, and there's some people now going, why not just put a Democrat in the place instead of having this backstabber in? And the House leader, I mean, his staff reportedly are calling other staff members, asking if they got job openings, because they don't feel they're going to have a job much longer, because they think he's either going to be resigning or he's going to be pushed out of the House leadership. He kind of fooled everybody, acting like a conservative. He said the right things, and now that he's in power, he's pushing liberal agenda. And it didn't get past the Floridians in this state. They picked up on it, and they are pissed, to the point that they're not even picking up the phones at their Capitol office or their home city offices. They don't even pick up the phones anymore.
So if I'm reading this right, this was a really, really transparent, remarkably juvenile attempt to push through something where someone would benefit to a great amount of buckage, the bill of which would be placed on the shoulders of all the Florida taxpayers. So if I'm looking at this and making the examination, I see you got about 10 minutes left before your show, but before the end of your show. But one of the first things that I would do as a result of this bill is have some kind of an organization, if you have a fairly stiff or firm GOP committee or Republican organization.
They're backing this bill.
Which
or
is
the GOP is backing the bill.
Which is okay. That's fruitcase. But again, my opinion from what it is that I see at this point, then if it's another if-then equation, if that's true, then you've been betrayed by even a greater number of Republicans than anyone thought.
DeSantis had the best comment. There's a difference between having a majority Republicans and a majority conservatives.
Exactly. Why I don't. But the GOP still sends me stuff every once in a while. They used to send me 2 or 3 a month, probably 10 years ago, until I sent them a really nasty letter and said, I'm not sending any money to you idiots again.
That's not going to happen. Me any more fucking emails because you just betrayed.
I specifically target Republicans. I target people, I should say, Republicans who are actual conservatives, who adhere to conservative values, and I don't mind spending and writing checks for that, because I'm that old. I still write a check, and I don't mind doing that at all. But the takeaway to me about this is revelatory. Lines have been drawn, and it's a wonderful attempt to utilize Rahm Emanuel. You need to take advantage of this crisis. You need to delineate which people, Republicans, you can trust, who is the backstabber, who are the underminers, name them, shame them continuously, nonstop, primary their asses, and get them out. Susan Collins in Maine. To a degree, I understand that. She and Murkowski and mostly McConnell and some others are mostly rhinos. I get that. Susan Collins in Maine. Maine is leftist. If they have Stephen King, it's a leftist state. So I get that. Will they primary Susan Collins? Maybe, probably not. Murkowski in Alaska
I think she's screwed.
is an individual who has taken advantage of familial linkage. And then the other thing is, low information voters are those who will see, this person is a Republican. Well, I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
Well, Murkowski's a Republican. I must vote for her. And it's giving them absolutely no benefit. McConnell, the only thing that I can think of that McConnell ever did really was save us from Merrick Garland getting a spot on SCOTUS. Because if he fucked over the entire nation as AG in that fashion, then he would also have done the exact same thing to the United States. It would be Bohica all over again. Bend over, here it comes again. And he would do that to the United States on a large level, whereas in terms of AG, he didn't screw the entire nation, although the bulk of it he did. And the good part about that is he's not on SCOTUS. He's not going to be there for, his life, essentially. And after 4 years, he's done. He's gone. He will never return.
Let me throw this video up real quick of Daniel Perez. He's the House leader, and he's trying to blow smoke up everybody's ass. He's backed out of multiple interviews since this started, and will only do interviews with friendly reporters.
This is such a stupidly juvenile attempt.
This is, say you want to screw your career over without saying you want to screw your career over.
Well, hashtag consequences.
Yeah.
That commits. The legislature wanted to make sure that any illegal alien that commits murder and rapes children gets the death penalty. The governor's proposal didn't have that.
And neither did his.
The legislature's bill wanted to make sure.
And you know what his real big idea was? When everybody found out and started bitching about it, oh, you're a bunch of fucking paid bots by DeSantis. And he put that in writing. He didn't say fuck, but he called everybody, if you're against this bill, you're nothing more than a bot. Or you're a rhino.
Okay, what's his background? Is he Cubano or is he Mexican?
He is, I'm thinking Cuban because he's in Miami. That's
because
where he's from.
Generally, Miami has a fairly strong Cuban conservative element to it. Not all, and no cadre of individuals are monolithic, right. Although many people.
But that area has been for years a heavy liberal area.
But see, you have to question his background. Where did he come from? And just like an actor gets a script, and the first thing the actor does is say, "Okay, what's my motivation?" You have to ask of this guy, "Okay, what's his fucking motivation?" Again, cui bono. How is he going to benefit? Is it just because I want to screw over people? Hashtag because I can, or who gets what out of this? Again, I reemphasize. I don't know how to state it in any other fashion. This is as if you gave a 5-year-old a pen, and then there was a stenographer that wrote it into somewhat legible language, and you gave it to someone and said, "Here, pass this really stupid, obvious bill that no one in their right mind really is going to pass unless they're stupid or they're so incredibly biased or agendized that they will be seen by everyone, and then it becomes mandatory. We got to kick these fucksticks out."
And that's what a lot of Florida citizens are saying, that they're ready for primary. They want recalls on these people. And I don't know if we can recall them just because we don't agree with a bill. I don't even know if we can recall them, to be honest. It can go either way. But it has woken up a lot of people. Now they're going, I will start going to my Republican local meetings. I will be having my voice heard. We thought we were able to sit back which that is always the mistake of the populace, was when you sit there and go, all right, we got a majority Republican there, so we can sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor. No, it is a forever fight that you have to continue having every single day to make sure that these politicians vote in your best interest, because I've seen some information pass by that there was some big corporations that agricultural type corporations that donated some money to the Senate leader and the Senate leader passed that on to the House leader. Do I have proof of it? No. So can I definitively say that happened? But does anybody doubt that happened? Because this bill helps these big corporations have cheap labor. And the only reason that the Democrats, and they have been very vocal about it, they did not vote for that bill, is because the only good thing it did is it took out in-state tuition from illegal aliens. That if they wanted to go to our college, they had to pay out of state, which I don't understand how they can even register for college being illegal aliens. They should not be allowed. Sorry. And yes, I was attacked by the family member. That's one of the things, because I don't believe these illegals should have these access to this stuff. Because if they are paying into it, that means they have stolen Social Security cards. That means they're helping these people that do identity theft. So they're promoting, and not only promoting, they're part of identity theft, which affects how many people in this country. How many people have lost their life savings because of identity theft? So how can these people be doing that? I know I went off from where the original subject was, but
well, you got 3 minutes left, and I know you're going to have to go. So I'll wrap this up into a 3-pronged summary that I can think of. One thing came to mind while you were speaking is this a result of Florida, somebody somewhere, like the agricultural corporations, perhaps, that you addressed there? Is this someone making an attempt to smooth the bed from California to Florida? And what I mean by that is California is going to suffer some consequences, and they think that they're going to take a hit in terms of agriculture by not finding a sufficient number of people to be able to pick fruit, etc. There aren't enough slaves to go around. So is this someone's attempt to trying to forecast and say, okay, California, always spelled with a K, looks like the jig is up for us. See what I did there? And then we're going to have to move our agricultural concerns to a more stupid state like Florida and make sure that we become entrenched there, because California is starting to become a bit of a lost cause and the spice must flow. That was one of my first thoughts. The second one is you can look upon this as a big positive in terms of, I can't think of how this did anything except become revelatory in terms of who's an actual Republican, who's a conservative, and all the rest of the other assholes. So it brought, perhaps you could say it brought some clarity and focus to people who need to be re-examined in terms of their R or their D behind the name. And the third thing that it brought to me is if Republicans are in a supermajority, just remember that this indicates the state is not a lock like anyone, and you can never think of a state as a lock, because there must be a continuous fight. Trump getting in and all of these people being confirmed isn't any kind of a lock. The fight will continue. As Warnock said, or Jeffries said, the fight will continue, and they're up for a battle. And so this can be somebody getting their rag and cleaning the windshield so that you can see who is lining up on what side. But the battle must continue. The battle will continue. They've said so. And they attempted to take advantage to the tune of $500 million. No one knows exactly where that's going to go. So, good on Florida for realizing, and you for realizing, this isn't just stinky. This is like 3-week-old Roquefort on a hot dock next to a dead carp on a hot day. This is bad.
Yeah. And this is exactly this.
So that's my summary. There was an attempt to steal and commit fraud, and you guys saw it and you stopped it. Now you have to make sure that the battle becomes even more pitched, and it must be.
Now, one bit of good news in Florida, in my county actually, we just flipped from majority Democrat registered to majority Republican registration.
Okay, well, then
the fight goes on, and it's now we got to make sure not only do we, as you said, just vote the R, we got to make sure their values and that they prove that their values are on par with ours and that they're not just going up there and as I hit the little button, blowing smoke up our ass to get elected. And this is a national thing, not just a Florida thing. You got to make sure every friggin' state, when you vote them in, you got to stay on top of them to make sure that they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. Because you give them a split second, they'll fuck you over for $1.
Absolutely. You got to look at them, especially what you just said with regarding to your county. You look at that as, okay, bonus. This is a bonus. This is a plus. You got to look at that, what occurred, learn from history. And you have to look at that as our learning from this is a feature and not a glitch.
Exactly.
And thank you for having me here tonight.
I was just getting ready to thank you so much for here because you have a way to expand it and get more in depth than I do. And that's why I like having you on.
Look at me. I am. If you look in the dictionary under expanse, you'll see my picture.
Hey, I'm catching up to you. So it's,
you got a ways to go. You got a ways to go. Listen, only professionals can do this. Kids, don't try this at home.
I want to thank you very much. And
thank you, sir.
I know you want to tell everybody where they can find you. I always forget that part, but I didn't forget tonight.
Well, thank you. I am Beezy of Beezy's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where you can see it every Tuesday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern. I am what I quantify as your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. I am on the SHR Media Network and wherever good podcasts can be found. And yeah, I'm conservative. I would say that. And so again, Jersey Joe, give a big subscription to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Give a big thumbs up to this show. At Rumble,
this one?
Subscribe to Rumble.
Oh, wait a minute.
A thumb.
Sorry, that one. I'm sorry. Yeah. I can get
the other thumb. The other thumb.
I'm from Jersey.
Thanks for having me here tonight. But at the bottom, I have to tell you, I don't know where my voice was recorded. Was it from this microphone or was it from that microphone right there? I wonder.
They'll never know. The shadow knows.
Yes.
All right, bud. I'm gonna
Thank you, sir.
You out.
Have a good weekend.
Much. You too. All right, everybody. That's going to be the show. And I need everybody. You got it. Whether it's Florida, whether it's New Jersey, New York, whatever, whether you're Democrat, whether you're a Republican, what you got to do is stay on your elected officials and make sure that they keep up with their promises, that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and that they don't. Well, and that's exactly what Daniel Perez and the fellow Republicans in the state of Florida just did to the Floridians. They are outright lying. They are going on social media. They are going on interviews and lying straight to your face, and they have no problem with it. They put a bill that they thought you were too stupid to read. I take that as an insult that they thought we weren't smart enough to read the bill and understand what they were doing. Listen, everybody, I want everybody to have a great weekend. Be safe, have fun. It's going to be pretty warm out this weekend, so might get a little fishing in. I don't know. We might go see the manatees tomorrow. But everybody be safe. I'll see you Monday, because every Monday through Friday you can catch the Reaver of Common Sense right here on SHR Media. Conservative media. Done. Right.